Oh, from New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental Tire from the AT&T 5G Virtual Studios. I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Kalen Carr, Matt Doyle. It's a Monday. There's no David Goss. Where is he? Checks Twitter. There he is, in an MLS Next branded polo and hat, doing his thing down in Frisco. So Dave's down in Frisco doing the MLS Next Cup. It's streaming.
That's his undercover look.
Yeah, he's not very undercover. I like it, though. He's got the full beard going on. The hat is perched. Okay. I think I played golf behind a guy like this on Friday.
He looked like a JV football strength coach. He was looking a little swole down
Come on,
there.
man. Say varsity.
Up downs.
At least give him varsity.
Get those up downs going here. He's just at the start of his career there, coaching wise. But Dave is down in Frisco. This tournament is ongoing. We have a big show today. We'll get to it in just a second. But I think it is an incredibly indicative sort of like thread through our soccer culture that I went on MLSsoccer.com this morning and I saw the Santiago Ferreira Golazo, and he is the younger brother of Jesus, who is the son of David. Well, they're both the son of David, obviously, who came to MLS to play for FC Dallas, to win MVP, and then seed the academy with the next generation of talent. And it's just all coming together at the MLS Next Cup in that way. It felt to me like this incredible full circle moment with many points along the circle. But
I've got a good one on that. Justin Mapp is there scouting as well, and they've brought in a bunch of basically like MLS greats as well to scout the tournament, and he's down there, and there's a kid who plays for the Colorado Rapids Academy who's from Mississippi, and I interviewed the kid at a pickup game or like a training field for the movement when I was in I think it's this kid, he was at that field the same day when I went to go interview Justin in Jackson, and they took a photo together, and I was like, what? This is crazy. So it's all happening.
You know, these kids are really good, and we see that week to week in MLS, and we're going to talk PlayYourKids today. But I don't think everybody's trying to develop an elite skill. I'm not sure anybody can do what you do, Kalen, and bringing it all back to the movement. You're always able to just like bring it right back to the movement, whether it's Justin Mapp's random kid that you may or may not have interviewed at a field in Jackson, Mississippi. I appreciate it. It's well done.
All 34 episodes still streaming on YouTube. We're still counting those numbers.
Go check them out. It's like 30 for 30.
That's right.
It's evergreen. Anytime. You get great content. Anytime. It's free. It's on YouTube. As is instant replay, by the way. We went through the plays this weekend with Charlie Davies. Coming up on today's show, PlayYourKids, all aboard the Ricardo Pepi hype train. 2 goals to knock off New England. Chicharito hit double digits, the first to do so in MLS. We'll talk about MVP contenders as they sort of come into focus after about 10 weeks here. FC Cincinnati. We're not slagging you on this show. We might have some quibbles. We have back-to-back wins. That's what's up. And also I have kids, if anybody knew that. And I took them to the Sporting KC game. So we're going to talk about that in the Celebrating Soccer moment, driven by Continental Tire. Also, MLSsoccer.com. Doyle, your armchair analyst. Tell us about the process this weekend. Was this an easy one to write? Did it flow, or did you have to fight through it?
It's almost never an easy one in the middle of the year. Like we're entering the dog days of the season where you kind of got to poke around. And part of that is because some teams are taking their foot off the pedal a little bit. Other teams are taking their foot off the pedal a little bit more and trying to
find the pedal. They're like,
can't find the pedal at all. And like, I don't want to just be negative with the column every week. So like, there's not a ton about like Toronto this week. You're not going to find a lot about Vancouver in there, although they did actually get a nice point. I had to dive into the Nani stuff. He was spectacular this week. He, was a 9-point week for Orlando City. They're still second in the East, but they're first now in points per game. They're playing really well. It needs to be noted, the teams that they beat this week, Toronto, San Jose, and Inter Miami. None of the 3 are in particularly good form at the moment, but you got to beat who's in front of you. Nani has been spectacular. 6 goals and 3 assists in 675 minutes. Orlando City, what we've seen in the past is over the first 60% of the season, each of the last 2 years, when Nani has been spectacular, they have been very good to spectacular. They have picked up, I think, 1.6 points per game over the first 60% of each of the last 2 seasons. Nani hits the wall at the 60% mark It's happened each of the last 2 years, and his numbers have fallen off a cliff, and that is commensurate with Orlando City's numbers overall. They picked up about 1.1 points per game. So there's a whole long thing on how good he is, but how the real challenge for Orlando City, for Oscar Pareja this year, is convincing him that he needs to take some DNPs. Like, if Orlando City are going to be a team that plays like this down the stretch and into the playoffs, Nani has to realize he is 34 years old, and he has not been able to stand up over the course of a full season each of the last 2 years.
I got to tell you, Doyle, he has an opportunity, or he did on Friday night, to look across the field and see that example and live it in Gonzalo Higuain, who is not afraid to take a DMP. He is just, if he has to do it, he'll do it. We will get to more on that game in just a second. Also, Sam Jones had a nice piece on the LGBTQ plus supporters groups in MLS, the communities that they're creating. I also would just reiterate again, if you missed it last week, Robbie Rogers, Colin Martin, the interview that Charlie and I did, I'm still thinking about that one. I don't think I ever will. I think it's an important one for everybody to listen to and sort of dig through your own life, your past, the words that you've said, the actions that you've maybe mindlessly done and didn't understand how they were hurting someone or holding them back. And then how you can support people every single day, every single week, and particularly kids. I think that's what's most important in my mind. So go take a listen to that. Shout out to our winner of the Extra Time Fantasy League. It is not me. I was trolled on Twitter again this week. I'd forgotten that I was not setting my lineup, but I'm not setting my lineup. I'm going to try to get back to it. But Gavin Harris FC put up 129 points, holding off Hitsy Bitsy, who had 128. So yeah, good job, Gavin. All right, let's get into it. Celebrating soccer moment of the weekend presented by Continental Tire. I took my family to a soccer game, and it was a beautiful thing, a nice afternoon game in Kansas City. Sporting 2-1 winners against LAFC. I had a big decision to make, guys, before I went to this. I had on the old school Wizards jersey. Felt like it would be too hot. All black, a little too much. Then I went with the current day Sporting KC jersey. Beautiful kit, loved the kit. Thought maybe people would think I was a homer. Didn't want to get caught in that. Ended up going Oakland roots just to play out my connections to the Bay here and to Calen Carr. Wonderful game. It was awesome. Great to be there, and a super cool result, I think, in the end. And just the environment, man. I walked in there and it just felt like everybody's engaged. It refocused me. I feel like I've been a little bit scattered trying to watch soccer recently and trying to feel it on a weekend basis. And I feel like this game reinvigorated me. I'm not
okay.
gonna lie.
Let's cut to the chase. How many times did you get recognized? Did you get any selfie photos?
None.
What was the star
Really?
treatment like?
No,
Did they roll out the red carpet? Did you get a beer with the ownership group? I mean,
No. Look, I will shout out to Sporting KC's PR group for rolling out the red carpet for me and the family, because we brought the two boys. And actually, the 11th-month-old was more into it than the 3.5-year-old. The 11th-month-old is big into clapping. So when he's surrounded by people clapping, it's like heaven for him. He's just like, I'm going to clap this whole time. Like, I'm with you. I see what you're doing. I'm copying you. I can also clap. No, I didn't get any red carpet rollouts. I didn't get any sightings. My wife was disappointed. Just a regular Joe. Just a regular Joe at the Sporting Kansas City match. Daniel Salloi scoring a game winner. I mean, it couldn't get any better for me. I'm not going to lie. I eased right into cheering for Sporting. Eased right into it. It was extremely easy.
So you're back. You're back.
I don't know if I was never there, but now I'm there.
Okay.
I don't know. You go into a stadium and everybody surrounding you wants one thing.
So are you then saying you're a Sporting KC fan for the rest of the year?
No, I'm saying when I'm in the stadium, I will root for Sporting Kansas City.
Okay, but once you leave the stadium, you leave that behind.
It's like what
if MLS Cup is in the stadium?
Oh,
right.
That's a difficult scenario to deal with here. Maybe I'll have to do it from home. I'm just saying, you walk through, it's intoxicating. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wants one thing. Everybody hates fill in the blank player or the referee who doesn't make the call for them. They love their guys. I'm like, it was hard not to be on that side, and I love Daniel Salloi. So that made it really, really easy. I mean, this team is one of the best atmospheres in the country.
For sure.
It's great.
Sure.
It's great. And Daniel Salloi set it off. And Felipe Hernandez, Dave, I'm right behind you, man. You're driving the hype train or whatever it is, but I've boarded the train. Felipe's a great little player. Gianluca Busio had a nice night, and it looks like, I don't know, could he move? The rumors are heating up, though Tom Bogert says that the reports of a done deal between Sporting KC and Sassuolo, they're not actually done. That's what the club is saying, so we'll see about that. What'd you make of this performance, though, Doyle, overall?
I thought it was, up until the red card, I thought it was pretty even, and then they did what you want to see from a good team, which is punish an opponent that went down to 10 men. And I thought over the final half hour of the game, Sporting were pretty clearly better than LAFC, and that's, that is exactly what the blueprint is. That first half, though, like, it was another story of, or another chapter in the same story of LAFC getting into good spots and then just not having the cutting edge to put the ball in the back of the net. And
is that cutting edge just straight up Carlos Vela? Because Carlos started on the bench. Like, it's part of it, right? He's still not the same player that he was in 2019, obviously, or even last year during the CCL run. Like, he hasn't looked like it. But Diego Rossi hasn't looked like it either. And like, Corey Barrett is a nice piece, but Corey Barrett is not your centerpiece striker. They played a 3-5-2 in this one, so it was a little bit different as well. It feels like Bob Bradley is kind of mucking around looking for answers, and at this point I'm wondering if maybe the answers just aren't on the roster. And that's not like, this roster is still super, super talented, but it just feels stale. Like, maybe the right time to sell Rossi was this winter. Maybe Anthony A needed a different contract or needed to be moved on somewhere to open up playing time, or to give him a team where he is kind of the man, because he hasn't looked the same this year either, I don't think. And kind of go on down the list, and like, they've dropped 12 points from leading positions. So not only are they not the same attacking team, but they're pretty soft defensively down the stretch. Over the final 15 minutes of games, they just don't have that ability to lock in and get the result that they want. And Sporting took advantage of that. They cut them apart over the final half hour by using the ball and making them chase. And when teams have done that to LAFC this year, LAFC have eventually broken down. Yeah, felt like a perfect opportunity for Jungle Busio, like when they're upper man, to sort of get there and run and have time and space and drive forward and hit those big switches that he's really sort of settled into. And it's like the pass before the pass a lot with him, and Felipe Hernandez in the same place. And right now you find Daniel Salloi. Johnny Russell he's not like the swaggering, like Johnny Russell goal scoring assist man brogue, make people look embarrassed 1v1 right now all the time. He's doing the work, but he doesn't have as many special moments. Alan Polito's got it, but he left. I mean, it's fine Salloi. They put him in behind. He beats people. He cuts back. He wants to be on the right foot. He does not want to be on that left foot. You can see it. And his ability to deliver that sort of like in-swinging ball into dangerous area in the penalty boxes, that causes Alan Polito's goal. And then he has the one-time finish from just a perfectly weighted pass from Hernandez, and that's the game. He's fourth in the league right now in expected goals, is Daniel Salloi. Yeah. He's first in runs. They're just like, hey, try to get him behind. Try to make this run. We will try to find you. Right now, he's winning the physical battles. I thought it was interesting afterwards. He said, and even before the game, he's like, don't talk about 2020 with me anymore. It really should be 19 and 20, because his breakout was 18, and then he just disappeared basically for 2 years. He's like, I'm confident now. That's the difference. I'm confident. He's got 7 goals, a bunch of assists. This was the 2018 Daniel Salloi that like gave me the reputation on this show of being a Daniel Salloi stan, which I now embrace.
The no look open net. I mean,
look, he didn't know he was going to get cursed. He didn't. Yeah. he might have, should have known, but he didn't know in the moment. It was just like a young man on the top of Mount Sporting, and he's just like, I'm just going to no look this one in, and it's going to be all good. And then lightning struck twice.
That's life though. But I mean, he's always been dangerous, right? And like he's able to kind of like get into good spaces, and even in those years where we're a little bit lean, to say the least, he was getting in good spots. He's just a different player when he's confident, just like a lot of people. But I think for him it might be a little bit more pronounced, because when he's on, he's like, the technique is just on point as far as finishing in and around the box.
He causes the red card too, bursting in behind Blackman.
Yeah, and like I just think his, it's rare for me to see a player who's had success in one place completely loses confidence, falls out of favor, falls out of form, and then comes back in the exact same circumstance as if like nothing happened. Usually it takes like a move somewhere else to find that. So I give him a lot of credit, and I also give Sporting a lot of credit and Vermees for kind of sticking with him. And, you know, he's a young player, believing in him and give him a chance again. And he's taken it because, man, he's been really, really good this year. And for LAFC, just to go back to Doyle's point a little bit, like, I do feel that they are in a tough spot as far as some of the play. I think they have the pieces within the roster to be successful, but I think the problem is you just like LAFC wants to sell players, right, at some point. And a lot of these players have kind of like maybe hung around a little longer than all of us were expecting them to. And at this point, it becomes a little bit of like, how do you keep this group going? How do you keep their form up? How do you find the right move for them? Because, yeah, like Rossi's being, you know, linked with Tottenham and like big clubs like that. But Everton, yeah. And it's like, okay, but that's a pretty big number, and those are big clubs. And it's not to say that he can't perform or isn't a good player, but like, does that all match up now? And then I felt like, honestly, like kind of the way we saw Atlanta move on and have to sell players, but they got that final moment where they got that trophy and they got that MLS Cup. And I think Sounders winning that game really sort of threw a wrench in the whole plans. And then the pandemic hits and it just falls one thing to the next. So, you know, I think they still have the pieces. They just got to figure it out. And I still would love to, if they want to keep these pieces and they're saying, hey, this is who we have, if they were able to go out and get a number 9 and double down on that, I really feel like that would be huge for them, because I understand their logic to understand that they say, okay, well, number 9 and goalkeepers, they feel like that's not a place that they want to spend, which if you look across the league, I feel like in a lot of ways it's become, or around the world, really, it's become more of a winger-centric place. And especially the way Bob moves the ball and LAFC moves the ball, it goes wide, inside to the center midfield, and then out wide again. So it's not a place that really gets a lot of, if you're going to look to spend money, you look at the patterns of play, you spend where the ball goes. That's what they've done and found success. But I still feel like if they were to go out and actually just upgrade a little bit, because right now they seem convinced to say, okay, it can be a guy straight from USL, or it can be another guy from USL, or a homegrown player, or whatever it is. And I just feel like they could really use another piece there to try and change things. And then, yeah, last thing was just the red card. And you can't get a red card at Sporting, because any team that does that, it's a nightmare. They're just going to come in waves and waves and waves, and you're never going to be able to catch up.
The thing that I'll say about the number 9 is that it's even less tactical at this point than it is maybe mentality, because this is supposed to be Carlos Vela's team, right? And he's not playing like it's his team. He's just not. He's not the same guy that he was 2 years ago, and maybe he'll get back to that. But whenever I watch them, it strikes me as a group that would benefit from having another DP who could arguably be the man, who could arguably be the one who is the emotional leader, and who's also like demanding the ball a little bit in tough spots and in big moments, because it feels a little bit too deferential to Vela when he's out there. And again, I've said it a million times in this segment, Vela's not the same guy that he was 2 years ago. Maybe he gets back to that. We all know he's talented enough to do so, but it just looks a little stale for LAFC. I still think it's a playoff team, but this is, as they're playing right now, they're not anything close to a trophy winning team. They're just not.
They're honestly not a playoff team right now either, right?
Yeah, I think even if they don't make a single move for the rest of the year, I still think this is going to be a playoff. I've written this a couple times recently, because I do the cheat sheet before the weekends, and I feel what you guys are saying. It just sort of feels like the dominoes are off. You know, whether it be winning a trophy with the group, it continuing, selling at the right time, like doing so at the top of valuations. It just sort of feels like the dominoes started falling and they didn't all connect. And now they're in this weird gray area where it's like Rossi's thinking I'm supposed to be gone. Atuesta was thinking that clearly based on the
the thing, Brian Rodriguez is stuck in this weird limbo where he's now coming back because Almeria didn't get promoted, but does he have a place in this team? Like Bob Bradley's saying he does, and Mark Anthony Kaye is not the dominant player he was, and Latif doesn't quite seem to be the same. And of course they're going to defer to Carlos Vela because it's Rossi and Musovski and Corey Baird. Like, it's all sort of natural. They've got to find a way to keep it moving. Now, the flip side is Sporting Kansas City are in second, are probably annoyed that other than my diatribe about loving to be at Children's Mercy Park, we haven't talked about them too much. I will say this, Ilie Sanchez looks pretty comfortable as a center back. Like, in some ways, I think that covers up a lot of the physical stuff that he was struggling with in transition. Everything's in front of him. He's so good at like misdirection and having like playing out of pressure. Because
don't you feel like there's an expiration date on Ilie at center back, though? Don't you feel like at some point,
maybe
after a dozen games of tape, everybody's going to be like, okay, we can.
If you're Peter Vermees, you will be fine with that. He's been trying to find a solution back there for so long. Mm-hmm. Like, Fontas is playing well now that we had a little trouble on the ball in this game. He was really good 1v1.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that, like, at some point, Ilie is going to stop being the solution.
Sure, Izzy Matt Marine should be able to come in there. Maybe you make a move in the summer. You still have Puncic. If you're Peter Vermees, in my opinion, whatever's working at center back and on that back line, because it hadn't been working for a while there, just ride it. And when it stops working, figure it out from there.
Spoken like a true Sporting KC fan.
Exactly. I am sad as a Sporting KC fan. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not in the stadium, so I'm not sad. But I'm sad for Alan Polito because it looks like he's going to be out for a while. Had a nasty cut on his foot. He kind of kicked into some studs, and now it looks like he probably is going to miss the Gold Cup for El Tri as well. They don't have that many center forward options. We'll talk about that more with Chicharito. But a big win for Sporting Kansas City there. Second in the Western Conference, 23 points, 1.92 points per game. Really good at home, as you said, Calen. No surprise about that. We got to hit this one before we get to the rest of the weekend and do Play Your Kids. You know how we feel about about racism on this podcast. I don't know what other way to say it. And as individuals, if you haven't been paying attention, here's what happened. 62nd minute or so, Diego Chara heard something on the field, went to the referee, Rosendo Mendoza, and said, hey, look, I was racially abused. This is coming from the Timbers after the match. He had been involved in a tackle previously with Franco Fragapane, who is the new signing for Minnesota United. The referee stopped play, went and talked to his assistants, went and talked to the managers, talked to the captains. In the end, the game went on. That's because the laws of the game say that the referee crew has to hear it or witness abuse of this nature in order to take action, which would then be a red card. Ian Quillen over at Forbes, he also writes for MLSsoccer.com, had a good explainer on the referee's role in incidents like this. It's a tough position to be in for them, in particular if they have not heard it. If they do, I think it's pretty obvious. In that case, afterwards, Gio Savarese, should go watch his availability, said that Diego Chara was targeted with racial abuse. That's unacceptable. We all know that. Racism in society, in the game, get it out, don't want it. I think soccer is still figuring that out, and obviously society never has. The MLS statement is, I think, where we all stand and where we need to stand until we learn a little bit more, which is Major League Soccer is aware of the alleged incident that occurred during the Portland Timbers and Minnesota United match last night. MLS has zero tolerance for abusive and offensive language, and we take these allegations very seriously. An investigation into this matter has already begun. Further information will be provided upon completion of that investigation, and further information will be provided here once we have that, as well as this investigation continues. All right, let's keep it going here. And it feels a little difficult to make that transition, but there is more soccer and there's positivity to talk about. And we'll go to my narrative fun zone, which is how we do every weekend. And there is a elite Play Your Kids weekend here. And I think it's time, Anders, for us to play the clip. Lloyd Sam, MLS Next Cup. Apparently he didn't know. He didn't know this was a thing.
What?
When you talk about the Play Your Kids, I guess you can call it a campaign if you want, around MLS. They are at the forefront of it. Play Your Kids.
Oh, Play Your Kids
Play
campaign.
Your Kids campaign.
Okay. That's a real thing?
I don't know. Maybe it's more of a Twitter thing.
Oh, okay. I like it, though. Play Your Kids. Why not?
Why not indeed, Lloyd? Why not? That was after the Santiago Ferreira golazo in that game. And in the first team, Ricardo Pepi was out here taking down New England with two beautifully taken goals. Justin Shea was starting at right back. Jesus Ferreira was delivering the assist and playing really, really well. We had some texts about this. Quote, come on, Goss, the only one who can beat the best keeper in the league, of course, that's Turner, is the best striker in the league. Pepi, this is a tough day for David to be gone. It's a tough day because he's been driving that bus for a while. Ricardo Pepi in this game looked like the striker that FC Dallas need.
I just want to say, but this is David Goss to a T, right? Because he is next level play your kids committed. Like now that we have 17, 18-year-olds, scoring goals on the regular in MLS.
Fight goals in their first starts.
David is done with that. He moves down a level to MLS next. He's there like, the U15s, the U17s, amateur. Like this is how committed he is to play your kids. So it's like nothing but respect for David.
18, 19, 20 years
he's probably
old.
at the MLS Next tournament, but he's probably out on other fields as well too, just going deep, like youth pickup games, things like that. Can we get back to Pepi though?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, let's do it.
The first goal, he puts on the Jets, and then the first time finish, and then the second goal, he's like, I'm just gonna beat the whole back line real quick.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's for me, he can do so many different things. Like I question to say, okay, does he have elite speed? I wouldn't say he has like elite speed, but he's clearly able to get in behind. He can stretch the field. And that was one where he's kind of got these long strides, right? And he's just kind of like eating up real estate, and he takes it super well. I mean, those are ones where I'm actually accustomed to seeing Matt Turner coming up with saves, where especially in ones where he has time to prepare, set his feet, but he just hits it so perfectly that it gave him no chance.
On that first one, it wasn't. So what stuck out to me on that first one? Oh, first of all, the one touch pass by Jesus Ferreira was like that was absolutely perfect. It was a really good quick read from him and from Pepi, but Pepi kind of took that shot on the half stride, like he took it like a half beat quicker than I think you would see most strikers take it, and that almost like wrong-footed Turner. Like Turner's feet are usually real quiet, and he's always set, and he gets a good push in those situations. In this one, his feet were still moving because Pepi was able to get that shot off a little bit quicker than you usually see, and he pinged it back post. It reminded me of Kyle Larin. Kyle Larin was always really, really good at generating a ton of power with like no backswing. So like the ball, like it would just be past the keeper before the keeper's feet are even set. And that's what the first one reminded me of. The second one was just, he was harvesting souls out there on that second one.
You're right. You're right. I think he has a quick release because even on the one last week where it's on his left foot, it kind of just sort of appears. Hollingshead, I think, sort of drops it over his shoulder and it appears on the left foot, just a quick strike to the far post. And then the second one where he's just, he sort of wrong foots. I think it's Bell again.
He nutmegged him.
Yeah, okay,
He nutmegged.
It's that little it's that little flick through. He sets him up and just kind of dinks it through, and then he's gone.
Yeah, you think he's gonna maybe go into a shoulder-to-shoulder challenge, and he just kind of wriggles out of it. But then it was that extra step of pause where he gets Jones, I think it was, where he just sort of hesitates like he's gonna shoot, and it's
shoulder
just that
shimmy.
little hezzy, and then finishes. He's excellent around the box, great instincts. He almost had a header earlier in the match too. So I just think so many different ways for him to score goals and be dangerous. I mean, it was like he didn't look like a kid. This year I feel like he's taken. We've seen moments, and now it's like, okay, for a young player like this, it's like 1 week to the next. I think this is his first 2-goal game. How do you carry that forward into the next one?
Well, he just turned 18.
Yeah,
he just turned 18, by the way.
He turned 18 in January.
Okay, so I guess to me that's just, that's when you're 18. I guess 6 months when you're 18, that's a pretty significant chunk of your life.
Yeah, 36.
This is still the age where you're like, I'm 18 and a half.
By the way, so he has 4 starts this year. He has 4 goals. You talk about young players and progression and what you want to see. It was 7 games in 2019, 17 last year with 4 starts, and now he's equal to start total from last year in about 9 games here. Started the last 3 for Dallas. Fabrizio Romano. Huh?
They had to put him into the lineup. Franco Jara has like 1 goal in his last 100 games. It was like you got to pull the plug. And I mean, thank God for Dallas fans. Pepi has produced so much over this past week that you got to imagine he's going to be staying in the lineup. But I stepped on you. You were about to say that.
No, you're right.
Pepi's off to Serie A.
I don't know. I was going to say staying in the lineup, but Fabrizio Romano is saying that 2 Italian clubs wanted him back in January on Twitter. Romano pretty tuned in, as we all know, to transfer dealings in Europe. We talk all the time. We've weeks here about Gianluca Busio in Serie A. I don't know if Serie A is exactly the destination here, but Pepi to Europe, is that a campaign that could get started pretty quick here?
I mean, it's been ongoing, right? Like everybody knows that's his ultimate destination. He's the type of prospect who is going to end up at a in a top 5 league, I think, with a fairly big club. But go ahead, Calen.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's a matter of time. I've watched some players, and I'm like, for me, I feel like DK is ready to go now. I know he's older, but I watch him and I'm like, okay, now is the time to go. You got to go now. And I don't feel that way when I watch Pepi play. I think if he wants to go, and the right move comes and that works for Dallas, then go for it. But I also feel like I'm seeing him develop right now in MLS. He's improving. He's getting better. He's getting more games. He's getting more goals. Like, I think there's still a place for him to do that here in Dallas. And I would guess that's where I think his focus should be, and the rest will come whenever it comes.
I hope Dallas is thinking opportunity cost. Like there's lost opportunity in the amount of money they're paying Franco Hard and not play him, but they don't get the results. So they got to focus on the opportunity cost of what Ricardo Pepi can be, not only for them in the first team sense, but also in their professional pathway, like transfer sense.
Yeah, but they've got a number of options for transfers. I mean, Tanner Tessman could go,
yeah.
Che could go. They've got like
Justin Shea has started the last 2 or 3 games at right back.
Mm-hmm.
He got back from Bayern, and they were just like, "Yep, into the lineup you go."
So they've got some options as far as if they want to try and monetize or make the right choice. But I Dallas is their track record is excellent as far as getting these guys prepared to go whenever that time is.
How have you seen Justin Shea so far, Doyle? Like, what is?
I mean, he hasn't looked like a Bayern Munich caliber right back. I like him better as a center prospect. You could see he has a lot of the physical tools that you want out of that position. As an overlapping right back or as a wing back, which is what he played earlier in the week, he didn't do much going forward, but that's fine. He's 17, and at this point, just getting those minutes is a really big thing. I wonder if Dallas was hoping for a Brian Reynolds style glow up. Remember,
it's
Brian,
clear that they would be, right?
Right?
Like we did this once, like let's do it again.
Yeah, like drop him in there and hope he just starts ripping the league up like Brian Reynolds did last year. Maybe that'll happen in the next start. But I see long term. I see Shea is much more of a center back than as a right back or right wing back.
17 years old. What about Quinn Sullivan? Get on your bike in your first ever start. Ali Bedoya is at home nursing a calf injury, tweeting about it. Jim Curtin's giving him like just a polite golf clap.
Yeah, what was up with that?
He like bikes this. It's not even like, oh, he kind of just got lucky with that contact bike. It's shifts his weight midair to like cock and load. Perfect contact.
I saw that. I was like, what is this kid doing training? Like what? Like that Jim is just like, yeah, all right.
I mean, he threw up a little fist bump, but then it was like emotionless, very easy clap. This is as good. I don't know. There can't be many first ever professional goals better than this one.
No,
there can't be.
No,
like just the law of averages says that there can't be.
It was a very nice goal.
Do you know anything about Quinn Sullivan, Doyle? Because I personally don't. I went and I remember when they signed him, and they signed him before he got into it was like, hey, we're gonna make the contract good in 8 months, and he played as an amateur with the USL team, and he was okay, and he mostly as a sub, and then boom, here he is, 17 years old, doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a ton about him. I like just in terms of the way this latest crop of Union homegrowns have been talked about. He's probably been talked about less than McGlynn or obviously Paxton Aronson. He's a little bit younger too. He just turned 17 3 weeks ago. So it's so he has a little bit more time to develop. He's an attacking midfielder, but he played as more of a shuttler in this one. He looked up for it. The caveat being that it was against the Chicago Fire, and pretty much everybody's looked up for it against the Fire for 12 years now.
Hey, come on, this is better for the Fire this week. Come on,
it was better for the Fire this week playing in a bog. No, I mean the Fire did it. I think we're pretty smart to go to a 3-5-2 and just get their wing back stationed on the touch lines and try to spread out that Philly diamond, because that's how you want to break it apart.
They got that deflection goal early in like first minute, and I was like, hey, things are changing. Like the luck is starting to come the other way. And then like fast forward to the 85th minute, and it like save goes right off own goal, and I was like, oh,
big night for own goal.
Man,
the two really nice ones, like very instinctual in that second one. Just didn't even have to think about it, right to the back of the net. And then Glesnes only scores bangers. We know that, whether he's doing his own goal or the otother one. This was a crazy 3-3. And also, there was shades of a foul on Shabilko on the Union's third.
I thought that was a foul. Yeah, I thought that was a foul. Can we just go back real quick to the Play Your Kids thing real quick? Because, we're talking about this sort of range of young players. And the only thing I was thinking more about is it's just so different for each player as far as what that development is. So, like, to Doyle's point on Che not looking like a Bayern Munich right back, well, maybe the best way for him to become a Bayern Munich right back is to go to Bayern Munich and develop as a right back, as opposed to my point is, it doesn't always have to go, you have success in MLS, you prove yourself here, you light it up, you Alphonso Davies it, you get sold for a boatload of money, and you go over there. It's like, okay, yeah, that worked for that situation, or Pepe's now getting goals and he's feeling more confident, and then maybe he gets sold somewhere. But for some players too, it might not be, maybe Tanner Tessmans does better in Germany somewhere, or does better in Italy somewhere, and he gets a little bit of a different format for him to develop. So I just think each player, it doesn't always have to just be one path, as long as the progression is moving forward. And only FC Dallas will know whether he's progressing within the system or not.
Well, Dallas, we've rewinded here, but Dallas is sort of a case study in some of that too, right? Mm-hmm. They've sold players in all different sort of states. I mean, you could look at like Chris Richards and say, okay, it was better for him in that moment to go to Bayern and develop in that sense. Maybe it is for Justin Shea. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe Pepe stays. Maybe Paxton Pomykal, he had a bump. Maybe he goes later on. I mean, that's going to be the reality for all these young players. And in the sense that you can just have them step into lineups, that's what ultimately I think a lot of us have been waiting for a long time, for when an Ali Bedoya is out, instead of it being sort of like, no offense to veteran players, but maybe somebody who what they're about. You've seen them in this league for a long time. They're, a depth piece on a roster. You have a 17-year-old coming and making their first start and making a difference. Totally. And that 17-year-old then having a younger brother who's also an incredible prospect.
Yeah, he's got a couple of younger brothers. One of them is
Oh my God, look at this.
Yeah. I mean, he comes from a soccer family. His grandfather, I think, was the coach at Villanova for a long time. He's Albright's cousin. He's Chris Albright's like second cousin.
Oh, so this is Philly. This is like Philly.
Oh yeah, this is Mayor of Easttown. Yeah, like this is all like it's all intertwined.
Great shout.
Oh man, some more 22 under 22 stuff. I don't know that Jack Mayer is not. I think he might turn 22 just barely too soon, like the end of October. But he now has 2 straight starts for Nashville. He had a game tying assist in this one. He had a goal in his first start this year. So props to him. Moses Nyman banging out dimes for DC. Now, they didn't win. We'll get to that in a second, but well done from him. Cade Cowell got the lone goal in the Cali Classico for San Jose. LA Galaxy, baby, rolling right along. Chicharito, 2 goals. But Kalen, you sent I don't know if you can reenact this or if you even want to. You sent a text to the group chat during this game.
Don't bring the group chat into this.
Yeah,
I saw you screenshotting my group chat to put it on Twitter.
But you know what? I did for you? I blacked out anything that might have been, we don't want to give people too much insight. Right, we just want people to know that Anders is a Seattle Sounders homer, tried and true, and then to troll him on Twitter. It doesn't I'll put it this way. It didn't surprise you that Cade Cowell was the one who got the goal for San Jose in what was a disappointing loss to the Galaxy.
Yeah. I mean, the frustration for me, if I were a San Jose fan, would be, look, this has been a frustrating stretch for them. But if you look at just like the proposition of what the week was laying out, right? You lay out the week and you're going to say, okay, we're going to go open up Austin's new stadium and it's going to be, 90 degrees or whatever it was. Then we got to go midweek to Orlando and play in like a 90-degree, rainstorm, which is going to be an absolute nightmare. And then we're going to come all the way back to the West Coast and play against, a rivalry match against, an informed Chicharito and informed LA Galaxy. And for me, the frustrating part was just the rotations or the lack thereof. You look at each match to match, and yeah, they changed the formation around a little bit here and there, but it was just basically trotting out maybe one change. And the biggest one for me that was left off consistently was Cal. And yeah, this is sort of good timing because this is the Play Your Kids episode, as they all are. But like, this was one where you're like, in a 3-match week in insane climates with tons of travel, and you've got a 17-year-old kid who's like one of the most athletic players in the league, and he doesn't get a single start out in the entire week. And what happens when he comes in the last match? Here you see the quality. You see he's not afraid to take chances. He's not afraid. He's got the quality to cause problems athletically, and then even around the goal. He gets a nice finish there. So, but it was just too little too late, because by that point, the game is basically done and dusted. You've already gotten wrecked. And beyond that, I mean, they changed the formation, but the style is always the same. The tactics are always the same as far as playing open, playing end to end. And it's like by halftime of 2 of the games, they were done. Like it was too late. So whatever tactical changes you make in the second half, or whatever choices you make as far as substitutions in the second half, pretty much null and void, because you're already down 3-0 or you're already down 2-0. And so that part to me is just frustrating. And when you look at San Jose overall, I think they've lost 6 of their last 7 matches, the other one being a draw. So it's just, they start off the year with a couple wins, I think maybe 2 out of 3 wins, and then it's just loss, draw, loss. And it's so frustrating, because this is the way it's been for the San Jose team for years. It's just been, when things go south, it goes insane. It's like 6-0, 5-0, 7-0, like 4-0. And when things are good, it's like, wow, this is really fun. 3-2, 4-3, like 3-1, whatever it might be. But it's just, how do you stop these insane swings? And because those are what dig you into holes where suddenly you're fighting at the end of the year for playoffs. And it's like, just even keeping the games closer would give you a chance for a point. And those points start to matter over time, where if you, they get the point in Austin. So I'll give them that, which is not an easy one to get. Although
it depends.
Austin now is like,
kind of is an easy one to get, if we're being
now
honest.
It's like a guaranteed point for Austin too. But yeah, I just think for San Jose, it's just, how do you stop these swings? And yeah, they may swing back and they're still not out of it. But it's just sinking too far down. And for me, some of it comes with the choices as far as personnel and tactics in tough circumstances, when you can't just always play the same way.
It feels like a lot of emotional and physical, a lot to recover from consistently from them, whether it be the highs or the lows. There's not sort of like a middle ground. And we've talked about that over and over, but it just seems to me, from both a physical and an emotional side, because you're right, you have teams where it's just like, well, throw what we were working on right out the window. Like, we're just surviving. We're getting to the end of 90 minutes, and Orlando just laid 5-0 on us.
Yeah, but they play the same way. It's like you're playing against Orlando, where they're going to try and stretch the field laterally. They've got incredible, dangerous wingers, and then they have DK in the middle of the pitch that you cannot leave isolated. Like, you can't let him start to like roam around into these channels and try and find space. And ultimately, the way San Jose plays is to, when players go wide, you drag all the way wide. When players come across, you run across with them, and then you spread out the center backs, and DK is just going to have a field day. And so it just felt naive to me, which is something I've felt like for a long time with the San Jose team, where they just seem hell-bent on playing their system. But ultimately, you got to get results, and it's not working. They got, they've got to figure it out, because I think 6 of the last 7 have been L's.
This is the Matias Almeida way.
The only pushback I'll give on this, and I largely agree with you, is that if you look at how they were playing before the Nations League break, they were pretty often the better team in those games. They just didn't have anybody who could finish. Now, it's been a different story this past week. I thought they were the worst team in each of those 3 games. Like, we talked about it earlier this year. Like, Wando left a couple goals on the table, and Cade Cowell, stopped being red hot at one point, and then they had 0 other answers, just 0 other answers. And this is the elephant in the room with the Quakes, with their signings over a decade now, is that basically none of them have delivered. None of them. They're spending $1 million a year on Andy Rios. Was like 6 goals in 3,000 minutes. Carlos Fierro is, he should be Shea Salinas' backup. They spent a lot of money on him. La Chofis is a bottom quintile playmaker in this league. I love Christian Espinoza. Christian Espinoza is not a goal scorer. And then that gets into the other thing about Almeida that has driven Quakes fans mad for 2.5 years now, is like he doesn't put the obvious lineups out there until it's too late. Like it is very obvious that the best front line this team could have is Espinoza on the right, Wando at center forward, and Cade Cowell at left wing. And we basically have not seen that this year, which is like those are your only 2 goal scorers. That's your best playmaker. Get them out there on the field together. And instead it's been like it's been the sunk cost brigade. Like the players that they have signed over the last couple of years have not delivered, and they're still going out there, and it is the sunk cost fallacy on the soccer field. And I think it has started, like, the losses before the Nations League break were, I think, frustrating for the Quakes because you could see that they were still creating good chances and just couldn't put them away. And then, whenever they made a mistake, they were, getting a push right down their throat and taking like a 1-0 or 2-0 loss. The losses over this past week have been of a different sort. The losses of the past week haven't been frustrating for the Quakes. I think they have been entirely demoralizing, and you could see it in the way the players are carrying themselves. It looks like a lack of belief that this thing is going to turn around.
Right now, I'm looking over here at my Galaxy Shrine. After a 3-1 Cali Clasico win, Chicharito on the board twice. Candles are flickering. They're holding on for dear life. Too much San Jose talk. More Chicharito talk. How can this man not be in the national team? Like, we've told the story of Chicharito and the Galaxy and Greg Vanney. I mean, they are doing what I didn't expect them to do. I expected to get better, but I expected it to be a gradual process. As they figured out what Greg wanted to do, as he got the right pieces in place, and there were all these signings that sort of trickled in. It wasn't like they had their full team from minute one. It's been a trickle-in effect. And here they are.
Would they be better or worse with 2019 Zlatan instead of 2021 Chicharito?
I sort of feel
2019 Zlatan had 30 goals.
I know he did. I know, but look, Chicharito's the first in the league to 10. It's entirely possible that Chicharito could go, I'm not going to say 30, but he could go get mid-20s. Why isn't that possible? And if Cabral is better, that's Grandsire had a nice little cross there on that first goal, huh? I know we've said things about him, yeah? Huh?
He was due. He was due for a positive contribution.
Yeah. And but you have Greg Vanney. I was going to say, are we still back in 2019 from just a playing style? Anyway, it's 2.1 points per game. I don't have an answer for that.
Don't dodge.
I don't have an answer for that. I'm taking Chicharito because of the vibes, man. The vibes are better. The vibes are right. And that matters a whole lot. How about
the gears are turning in Kalen's head?
Yeah. You taking Zlatan or the little P?
I'm going with Chicharito. Yeah, I'm actually going to go back to his, I think when he first came, I said 20 goals would be the mark for him. And I still think that's the mark, where if he can get to 20, I think that's where he's going to get. If he can get to like 25, then you start looking at the Galaxy as like, that might be enough to get them over the top, like top.
Top. I think there's a difference here, and we'll get to the MVP rankings as they stand right now. This team, this season, to me, you talk about San Jose and lack of belief, has been defined in large part by belief.
Yeah, and they feed off him.
Yes.
He's the one that they like.
Zlatan was like
follow.
He was like the black hole. Like energy went down the black hole, and there was nowhere for it to go after that. It just it just disappeared. It was gone, and it was just Zlatan staring back at you with like James Corden laughing with him. This is Chicharito scoring. Look, like hugging, scoring, smiling, in press conferences, in media saying, yes, I'm happy to be scoring again, but look what all my teammates are doing for me. Like it's a building environment as opposed to a black hole environment, let's just say. And no offense to Zlatan, he's an absolute ridiculous human, but also he's a ridiculous human.
That's the way it's supposed to be, by the way. You're supposed to be feeding your number 9 and feeding off his energy and making sure that, the 9 is happy. And if the 9 is happy and scoring goals and everybody's happy and scoring goals, that was not the way it was with Zlatan.
How about this?
He was angry, hated everybody, and scoring goals in spite of his team. Like, it was the opposite.
We'll ask Kevin about that when we have an opportunity, just to kind of confirm maybe the difference here. How about this? Landon Donovan MVP rankings right now. I have 4 names. You tell me if these are the only 4 that should be in the conversation right now. The first 3 are very obvious to me. It is Chicharito. It is Carlos Gil. It is Raul Ruiz-Diaz. Those are the top 3. Easy top group. I think Nani is also in that conversation. And I'm not sure that anybody else is.
I don't know if I have Nani in that top group.
He's not in the top group. He's in the conversation. The top group is clear. It is Gil, it is Chicharito, it is Ruiz-Diaz. Nobody else, in my opinion, is close. You have Nani sort of floating around below.
Nani and Daniel Salloi.
I wanted you to say it. I wasn't going to be the one to say it, but since you said it, headline MLSsoccer.com, Matt Doyle, 5 names in the Landon Donovan MLS MVP discussion. Daniel Salloi is the one you wouldn't have expected. Well, how would you rank the top 3 right now? What is the MVP early leaders ranking?
I still have Chicharito number 1. I have Gil number 2. I would have Ruiz-Diaz a distant 3rd in this group, because I think there's a strong argument that for the first half of this season, maybe even more than that, it was Christian Roldan who was the MVP of the Sounders. Now, as teams have started to figure the Sounders out a little bit, I think Roldan has been a little less influential, a little less effective, still really, really good, but it has become more of a Ruiz-Diaz season. But Chicharito and Gil are the 2, the top 2 in one order or another. And since the Revs finally lost again and Chicharito had a brace this week, it's Chicharito 1 and Gil number 2.
I'd probably flip that. But I understand the goal scorers, like I just finished saying, the 9 is going to get a lot of the cred. But I think when you look at New England, the way they play, the amount of the ball that goes through Gil, how important he is to that team, and then just, I don't know. He's just he's involved in so much more of the game than Chicharito is. Chicharito is involved in maybe the most important part of the game as far as finishing the action, but so much runs through Carlos Gil, and he's just been so good this year. I think he makes so many people better around him. And I think New England has a real chance at the Supporter Shield this year, maybe despite Bruce will reluctantly lift the trophy. We're gonna burden Bruce Arena with the Supporter Shield, but
I've got enough plates at home.
Yeah, but I would probably flip those and put Gil. And the other thing I think too is it's a bit odd, but I would give Vanny so much credit for not to take away from the MVP of Chicharito or his performance or his play, but I give Vanny so much credit for what he's been able to do in this situation. Whereas if I had to pick between Bruce and Carlos Gil, I love Bruce, but Carlos Gil is and he's done a great job putting him in a position. But and I'm not going to pick, I'm never going to pick a manager over a player, but I still think, Vanny has done a really, really good job. I think, if we're going to do the MVP for coaching or coach of the year, I think he's got to be up there.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Right now, I'm a Chicharito 1. That's just because I'm a narrative guy. But I agree with you. I agree with you, Calen. Carlos Gil has impact on the game. There's more of it. If you take him out of that team, they are not a Supporters Shield contender. Neither the Galaxy, of course. But yeah, it's interesting right now.
They have Ethan Zubak.
I was gonna make the look. He's he's gonna make the runs.
Weavy with his hot takes. The show.
He's gonna make the runs. He's gonna make the runs. Hey, we got to keep rolling here. So let's keep it quick, but not too quick, because FC Cincinnati deserves some positivity here. They have supported this team. They have marched. They have opened a new stadium. They have stood behind Yep, Stom. And they
you
have
wanna tell us about
back-to-back wins.
Do you want to tell us
show
about
for
the
it.
march?
No, I'm good on this one. Everybody knows. When I say it, they get a visual in
Was
their
there a
mind
march in Sporting and Kansas City?
no marches. We got there 5 minutes after kickoff. That's life with 2 young children. How encouraged would you be, Doyle, if you were FC Cincinnati?
I mean, pretty encouraged. This isn't a playoff team, but they're like I wrote this like the first step to becoming a good team is to beat the bad teams, and they beat Chicago and Toronto this week, and those are 2 pretty bad teams. And like usually in the entire existence of FC Cincinnati prior to like this week, they were on the other side.
I was going to say, they have experience with this. They're like, we know how other teams beat bad teams. We've seen it. It's in the tape.
So it's like that is super encouraging to put that together back to back. Also encouraging, Brenner hasn't hit. I still think he looks like a player, though I don't think he looks like a $13 million player. Isaac Atanga is really, really good. And I think Barreal is also very good. So they have those 2 wingers who are doing some good work. Lucho had his first game of the year this weekend against Toronto, where he looked like that 2018 version of Lucho. And then, I mean, it happened just before he's leaving for the Gold Cup, but Alan Cruz was awesome. And Alan Cruz has been an enigma to me since he arrived in MLS, because he should be one of the better 2-way central midfielders in the league. And he hadn't been that at any point really in his MLS career, but over the past 270 minutes he was, and now he gets to go to the Gold Cup and try to be that for Costa Rica. And Jaap Stam's going to have to scramble to fill that hole a little bit. And same with left back, because Matarrita's gone as well.
Tough one for Toronto FC. A lot of tough ones recently for them.
Keeping a clean sheet, that's big for them.
Every one of those is a collector's item for Cincinnati.
Clean sheets are huge. That builds confidence. They've gotten goals on a couple set pieces, which has been which will be important for them. And then Lucho, when he's on. That goal where he kind of like he's standing up Michael Bradley, I think, right on top of the box and just kind of just turns him around. And
he knew he was getting to his space.
Yeah. That was sick.
Beautiful.
Does anybody here think that Cincinnati's a playoff team?
No. I think in large part the Eastern Conference has sort of evened out into sort of a hierarchy in the table that I think probably will either hold true or change very little over the course of the rest of the season.
I think the first 5 teams in the table are the first.
Nashville and the Red
East.
Bulls are the only ones where I'm like, that could flip. You know, DC's been decent. Montreal could make a run. Maybe Atlanta's probably not, but maybe Atlanta's attacking pieces get going, or maybe just Joseph Martinez gets going. But Cincy, Miami, Toronto, Chicago, to me, are all playing to have the best bad season.
Toronto was second in the Supporter Shield race last year, and they brought in Soteldo, one of the best players in South America. It's a $10 million attacker. You're telling me that Toronto's race is already run for 2021?
No, I will say this. I will say the longer that, and this is a huge disadvantage for them, you watch this game, it's demoralizing. You look in the stands, there's literally no one there to give them a boost, to give them anything. And I know sometimes I think the crowd influence can be overrated, but again, I was at a game this weekend. I don't think it is completely overrated. It is important. It's important to have that environment to play in. That thing to drive you forward, they don't have that.
Or even the pressure.
Yeah.
Even the pressure of the fans, like, seeing their reaction or hearing it not just on social media, which is, not always
well, in their situation, they're not going to get much positivity off social media right now. Yeah, it just feels to me like unless they can get back to Toronto and get all these pieces healthy, they are in, I don't know. They're sort of at the bottom of the funnel, and they're trying to claw their way out of it. And right now, it's not going.
But
very
if you
well
were to
for
pick a team from that
talent-wise, sure,
right now that had a chance of moving forward, it'd definitely be them.
Yeah, for sure. New York City FC had a nice win against DC. Last second win. Sean Johnson, distribution brilliant. Thiago Andrade, bam. Andrade?
He gets an assist for that, right?
I think so.
Okay, good.
I believe so.
I got
He took
Gotta look
off,
out for my
man.
people.
That's tough. That's a tough moment for DC fans to watch that defending.
Well, Sean laid out too for the distribution too.
Yeah, he did. You have to. You got to sell that thing, man.
He like knew there was going to be a replay. He's like, I need to get the ball to this man with some urgency right now.
He looks out there. He sees a 1v1 with Donovan Pines in open field ahead, and he's just like, oh, okay, put it on his right foot so he can touch it forward, and we're good to go here. And then just watch and hope. Big win for NYCFC. They're 4th in the Eastern Conference. Teams that could use a striker, some reinforcement, as City Football Group dropped in NYCFC, by the way. David Goss was right about that as well. Nashville and Austin. 0-0 draws at home are the rule right now. Nashville, last second goal at home to tie FC Club de Foot. FC Club de Foot. I'm still working on Club de Foot. I don't know. It's been very difficult for me. But news in Nashville, John Cadiz, his loan is extended to the end of the year. I understand it from Nashville's perspective. To me, given everything that's going on in this summer, absences, et cetera, and really the state of the market, I think they're just sort of riding with what they got. He's got 4 goals in like 600 minutes. It's not terrible. Maybe it's going to get better. He knows the situation. He knows what Gary Smith wants to do. They've got a ton of forward options anyway to rotate in there. If it's not working, they really probably should fix the back line and that side of it before they get too concerned about spending big bucks. But Austin have some problems, Doyle. They don't have
a forward.
They don't have. Josh Wolf just came out and said it. I think the direct quote is that we don't have a number 9.
Yeah.
So now what? Is this just like 0-0s at home until the transfer window, or?
I guess. I mean, do we get to say I told you so? Because when we did the season preview and we looked at that roster, all 3 of us and Goss and I'm sure Charlie too were like, I mean, Charlie was probably ready to lace him up and get out there and be like, I can help. I really like the way this team was built. I like a lot of this roster, but it was so glaringly obvious that they needed to address that spot, and that they really hadn't, and they're suffering for it because they could have beaten the Crew last night, like if they had that type of guy.
Was it just a miscalculation or an overestimation?
Do you think it was a Marco Arena situation? Like LAFC came in and they were like, oh, we're going to get it down the line. We're going to figure out the rest of the team. Like you said earlier, Calen, we're built around the wingers. Arena's going to get us there, and then we'll.
No, they
maybe Houston was like.
They really liked Houston. From everything that I heard, from everything that came out, they really, really liked Houston. And Houston has he's like the Juan Agudelo type, where it's like you watch him play and you see the highlights and you're like, oh my God, this guy's going to be amazing. This guy's going to score 20 goals. And then you watch him play 90 and you're like, oh, this is why he's been on 12 teams in 9 years. So they really thought it was going to be Houston from everything I've heard. And it very predictably hasn't been. And now, I mean, the good thing is that they've kept a lot of powder dry. They have the ability to go out and spend big on a DP center forward. I think if they get that, they're a really good bet to make the playoffs in the West. Though I do still have some questions about their center back situation. But I'm sure it's really frustrating for those fans and probably for the front office as well, because they miscalculated.
And for FS1, man. They wanted that goal. I mean, we all wanted the goal. You know, I want to see the place go up and just explode. This is you're waiting 180 minutes.
Not gonna lie, I was rooting for a Crew goal. I would have liked to have seen the Crew get the first goal. I just want to new stadium.
That actually would have been quite fitting, huh? That would have been fitting. I'll take goals when I tune into FS1 on a Sunday night. I'm just goals.
It needs to be said, by the way. We were talking about the MVP conversation. If there is one goalkeeper in the conversation this year, it's not Matt Turner. It's Brad Stuver. Brad Stuver again last night was absolutely superb. He has repeatedly bailed that team out.
Yeah, just maybe not going the way you want your season to go. All respect to Brad Stuver if he's your talking point right now.
Former MLS pool keeper.
I know. Look,
I'm at 2.0.
He's awesome. It's a great story, but it's maybe not exactly the story that you might want to hear.
The story you want to tell.
Yeah. Hard to win an MVP and 10th in the West.
Yeah, exactly. Christian Ramirez is headed to Aberdeen. Stephen Glass is the manager there now. Went over from
there's a good productive MLS forward.
Yeah, and you know what? You know who? Davey Arnaud was an assistant in Houston when they brought Christian Ramirez over. You would have thought, man. You would have thought that Christian Ramirez Ramirez would have found a place in this league. As he's on his way out, I remain incredulous that he has not found a consistent home. A guy that I think on my math, like I think goals and assists per 90 is at like 0.55 or 0.6.
Yeah,
like
he's been productive.
Extremely credible numbers for a center forward in this league. He's been buried in Houston for a long time. He got taken to LAFC for big money. Didn't really ever get a consistent run with LAFC. We know what happened to him in Minnesota. Had a nice first year when they were bad, and then it just didn't seem like Adrian Heath believed in him. This is one of those situations where I get frustrated with Major League Soccer because the way I look at the league, unless I'm in Children's Mercy Park, is that I want to see every player have the absolute best opportunity to maximize their abilities. And like if it's not happening in one place and they're a good player, I want to see the system be set up in a way to where they can get to a place where that opportunity is there, where they will be valued, where they can see if their talents can translate. It is so frustrating to me that Christian Ramirez just could never get in that situation.
Well,
and you also have to put some on him. He's on 3 teams.
In that situation in LAFC, right?
I was going to say, if you play number 9 for LAFC, I don't know how much you can complain about life. Like that's like.
Let me go real quick. Let me see. You guys can continue. I want to go see what
Christian Ramirez has always passed the eye test for me, and as Weeby said, the numbers are good. But it's not just Tab Ramos who has decided that he's not a starting number 9. You know, it was Adrian Heath, and then it was Bob Bradley, and then it was Wilmer Cabrera, and then it was Tab Ramos, and like there's a
group there. Okay, so with LAFC, I have 24 games played, 16 starts, 6 goals and 2 assists.
Yeah, it's not great, and it's not just not great, but like Bob traded him in the middle of the year. Yeah. And there's something to that. So like, okay, he's off to Aberdeen, and good luck to him. I hope he tears it up there. The reason he didn't get on the field this year is because Maxi Urruti has been awesome for this Dynamo team. I think he's scored in like 5 and 6 games now.
Yeah, they shouldn't have won though this weekend. Houston Dynamo. I don't want to bring them down like that, but like Tim Parker brought Damir Kreilach down, and I guess he didn't pay the price for that one. But it was like 2.9 expected goals for RSL to like 1 for Houston.
Marich was great.
Yeah.
Especially in that first half. I thought RSL kind of fell apart after the subs, and Freddie Juarez has struggled with that this year. Using subs at all was the first hurdle, and now like using subs effectively. Whereas Houston have this thing, right, with the way they're playing super energetic soccer. Tab Ramos has got to take the risk in these moments of getting Darwin Quintero out there in the Ilsinho role for the final 20-25 minutes of games. If you have fresh Darwin Quintero out there going against a tired backline, he will create chances, and Houston should have won this game because Darwin put it on a platter for Ariel Lassiter in like the final 5 minutes of the game. So I don't know. I think there's more there for the Dynamo than maybe we gave them credit for at the start of the season.
That's been sort of the story of all season with them. RSL 1, Houston 1, Atlanta Red Bulls 0-0. I watched this whole game.
I'm sorry.
Was left wanting in many ways. Red Bulls made it a chaotic match, but Atlanta, man, they just don't have any. There's no ideas as to how to create scoring opportunities, like good ones. There's very little there going on, and I don't know. We talk about on this show. Is it the personnel? I mean,
it's the personnel.
Yeah,
it's the personnel. None of the they haven't made very many good. They spent a lot of money, but none of we've been saying for 4 years that Barco is not that guy and been getting ripped.
Has it been? It's been 4 years?
This is his 4th season in MLS. We've been saying he's not that guy, and we've been getting ripped for saying it. And we're 4 years in, and the dude has like 12 goals.
So is my Barco guarantee of 10 and 10 from like 3 years ago?
Yeah, it was not great. Marcelino Moreno he's a pretty good complementary player, but he's not. You can't run things through him. Eric Lopez. He's a young player. Maybe he'll come good. Kubo Torres starting games.
This isn't Chivas USA anymore. It's not.
Oh my God.
It's not there. It's not there.
That game being a scoreless draw was like the least shocking thing of the weekend. That was less shocking than the Galaxy putting 3 on this version of San Jose.
Let's get to the mailbag here. 401-206-0MLS, extra time at MLSsoccer.com. This is an email from Andrew in Kansas City. Kei Kamara is looking for a team.
Let's go.
We're talking about strikers. He just delivered Sierra Leone to the promised land. They're going to AFCON. He's like shaking hands with the president. He's touring the country. Everybody loves him. He's loving it. But then he jumped on social media and he's, props to Kei. He's always sort of let people in. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
And he was like talking about how a joyous time it is. But I'm still looking for a team. AFCON is next year.
Yeah.
He's got to play games.
Yeah.
Calen, I know you have a long history with Kei. Like, what now for Kei Kamara? This is such both a bizarre, but also sort of a little bit of a fitting way for it to end because he's played for so many MLS teams. He's bounced around, never really had that long-term home except that time in Kansas City when he came up and sort of made his star.
Yeah.
Now what?
Well, we know it's not over because he scored that penalty, and so he's literally playing for another chance to play, a next known chance to play, which is an amazing story. The fact that I think it was 24 years or something since they got into AFCON, and now he just needs regular games to be able to be prepared for that. But like from a fitness standpoint, from an age standpoint, I wouldn't worry about Kei at all. From like, he's never really had any injuries or injury histories. I really would like to see Kei. He's ended up in a lot of situations where the team maybe hasn't been successful, and he's been asked to play maybe a starter role on that team. And I think for me, it would be great to see him in a familiar setting, maybe a club that he's played for before, maybe a manager that he's played for before or knows well, that could get the best out of him.
I'm just going to say, I believe his family's moved back to Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Pleto might be hurt for a decent amount of time.
Yep.
I don't know that he's necessarily the style of striker that would work best in this system, and I doubt that it would ever happen. I'm not suggesting that this is likely. I'm just feeding the rumor mill.
I like that. But I think that's the type of place where it's like, okay, he's going to come in, and while Polito's out, he can give you some matches. He can give you a couple goals, maybe some important goals in the playoffs. He understands the culture of the team. He understands the environment of the place. That's the type of place that I think it could work. Another place that sticks out to me would be Austin, because he knows Josh Wolf from his time in Columbus.
Played with
and they
Josh
played
Wolf
together. In Kansas City.
Back in those
Beasler's
Wizards
there.
days.
Yep, Bees is there. So there's a number of pieces there, and they're desperate for goals right now too. So I think there's a number of positions. I was sort of surprised that it's taken this long. I don't know, sort of behind the scenes. I haven't talked to Kei about that, but I feel like it's going to happen, and I believe in it. And I'm following along Kei's stories, talking about free agency and just how difficult that is. I remember sort of being a free agent at the end of my career and wondering, was I going to get called in somewhere? Was I going to continue? He's had the national team, which has been, I think, great for him and for his country. But now I really want, I think, I think he has quality. I think MLS is a funner league with Kei involved, but I also think he has the quality still to help. But I don't think it would work if you're going to ask him to go to a situation where it could go bad in some ways.
Make him if he's going to be in MLS, make him the Alan Gordon, where he's like, this is your role, set pieces laid on. When we got to go find a result or get a result or defend set pieces, that's you. And maybe USL Championship is a place that he could end up. If he needs to be ready, he may decide, like, I'm going to go be the man for somebody, because that's what he's going to be for Sierra Leone. Yeah. I'm going to go be the man for somebody. I'm going to get in that mindset, and I'm going to try to make history. I believe in Cameroon next year. So we'll see what happens with Kei Kamara. More here. This is an interesting one. Gabe says Dave pronounced his name incorrectly recently. It's Gabe. So I don't know what that is. But so it seems that out of nowhere, lots of teams are switching to a 3-man back line. Barcelona is the first I noticed. Now Seattle, LAFC, Chicago, and Portland have all played it. Is this a trend in MLS? And if so, why do you think that's happening?
It's definitely a trend. Like 5 years ago, you couldn't find a 3-man back. Even 3 years ago, it was tough to find a 3-man back line. It is a trend. It is mostly a defensive trend, just getting the extra center back back there gives you a little bit more solidity and allows you. I mean, there are a lot of very good attacking fullbacks in this league. Adding a extra center back turns them into wing backs, which gives them license to push a little bit higher, a little bit earlier in the play, without necessarily being completely exposed. The other part of it is, it's a little bit in the weeds here, but everybody's trying to get to the 3-2-2-3 formation in possession, which is the Pep Guardiola thing. And the best teams start in sort of different formations. I mean, Pep uses like a 4-6-0. Other teams use a 4-2-3-1. Some use a 4-3-3. But the idea is you want three guys along that same horizontal line in attack, your center forward and then two wide options, and then you want two half-space merchants underneath. Starting with three at the back just kind of puts you in that formation, makes it very easy to get to that sort of setup on the field. Chelsea winning the Champions League was a perfect example of that with a 3-4-2-1. The two underneath the one forward are already in those half spaces, and the only adjustment is you push those wing backs forward, and suddenly you're in that 3-2-2-3, or sometimes it's a 2-3-2-3. It's about having the ball in attack or in possession with triangles all over the field and sort of these timed movements to rock teams back on their heels.
Who do you think plays it the best so far that you've seen in MLS?
There's not a good answer to that at this point. Like, it's clearly what Gabriel Heinz is trying to do. It's very clearly. And I think that if he had the talent, I do think it would work for them. But if you watch like Barco in the half spaces, his decision making is so slow that it doesn't really work for them. I thought Colorado actually.
I was just going to say, I felt like they have sort of the pieces that can make this work a little bit.
They play, so theirs was more of a 3-5-2 than a sort of a 3-4-2-1, and it was really more about being in transition. But I thought the few times that they were on the ball in possession, trying to use the ball to take teams apart, that was really, really good. The Sounders have obviously been, fantastic in their 3-5-2, but that is very much about transition moments and overloads rather than. I mean, they have operated a bunch from the half spaces, but it's not. Like, they're not a team that is really trying to pull you apart with possession. That's just not how the Sounders play.
That's a good way to end the podcast. I've been interested in that. Yep. Had to wait all the way to like an hour and 15 minutes to get that. Man, thank you to everybody who's waited that long. Thanks to everybody who watches, listens.
I forgot. I'm stupid. NYCFC, when they were playing with three at the back for a good long while, they were awesome. They just couldn't put the ball in the net. Like, NYCFC are so much better than their record right now. For about a month straight when they were playing, they called it a 3-5-2. They were really, really good at all the stuff I was just describing.
Just clip that for me real quick, Anders, and drop it right into the intro. Oh, I forgot. I'm stupid, says Matt Doyle. It is just made for it. Perfect stuff. If you listen to this show, if you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate us on iTunes, share us with your friends who like MLS. We should do this more often. I should probably do this like 5 times a show, and I'll try to do that, but it seems unseemly. Please help us out with that. It would be awesome. We love the community we have here on Extra Time Driven by Kyle. That's it for us. Back on Thursday with Charlie Davies. We will see you then, everybody. So you made it through and even enjoyed more than an hour of MLS talk with Extra Time driven by Continental Tire. That means that you should go subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to them, and you should also check out more Extra Time on the MLS YouTube channel. If I can point right there, click right there, and subscribe to the MLS channel right here. Have a great day, folks.